Hello, my name is Malcolm Hales. Welcome to my third film, The Railways of Immingham Part 2. I hope it brings back many happy memories. The footage is of the western side of Immingham Dock. This was the area where the first coal trains arrived for export in 1910 and where the first shipment of coal departed on the SS Dewsbury. It was also the area of Immingham where the oil and mineral trade first started. During the late 1980s and early 1990s, when this film was taken, it was the busiest area of the dock. The film begins at Immingham West Junction signal box. It was the first signal box on the Immingham Dock estate to be built by the Great Central Railway, and it opened on the 25th of March 1912. The box originally contained a draw slide frame made by the British Pneumatic Railway Signalling Company. However, in 1975 it was replaced by this small switch panel and CCTV monitors for Humber Road and North Western entrance level crossings. This is the signal box diagram. For the purpose of the film, I have provided a more detailed sketch. The first connection from the main line coming from the Ulsby direction is Mineral Quay sidings. Its siding lines consisted of 9 tracks, and up until the 1980s was staffed with shunters working Immingham Pilot Engine number 3. However, due to the loss of trade, including iron ore, permanent staff and the pilot engine were withdrawn. From time to time, ships with no regular berths but carried bulk cargoes would arrive at Immingham Mineral Quay. In these instances, the railway industry would provide staff on the quayside and a staff pilot engine for the yard. On this occasion, a pilot engine is seen arriving into the sidings to deal with the arrival of a ship's cargo of ilmenite. Here we see the pilot engine collecting a raft of wagons for the quayside. Looking towards Humber Road Junction, a train of empty HAA coal wagons approaches Mineral Quay sidings. These wagons were to be stabled to wait for the arrival of a ship carrying power station coal. In this view of the sidings, a train of loaded ilmenite wagons stands waiting to depart to Grimsby. On the line next to the rail weighing machine is a set of empty coal wagons. Here we see a raft of empty ilmenite wagons being propelled into Mineral Quay sidings from Immingham Reception Yard. These are the railway lines leading to the quayside. Once the 08 pilot engine had placed the wagons onto the quay for loading, members of the mobile gang took over. Using a converted tractor fitted with buffers, they began by positioning wagons under the crane's hopper. The quayside was also used by road transport, and care had to be taken whilst working under cranes. These wagons, being coupled up by shunting pole, was performed by Dennis Brown, the shunter in charge of the movement. These wagons were being placed under the crane's hopper. Ilmenite, known as black sand, was unloaded from the ship and placed by the crane's grab into the hopper and the wagons underneath. The loaders knew the right amount needed to fill a wagon. Once they had been loaded, they were placed ready for the pilot engine to withdraw them to mineral quay sidings. Before they were marshalled into trains, each wagon had to be weighed by the weighing machine in the sidings. From there, they were made into Class 9 trains to be sent to Grimsby's tie oxide factory. After the mobile gang's hard work had been done, two members, Dennis Brown on the left and Willie Ware on the right, had time to pose for a picture. Returning to the sketch diagram, next to the mineral quay sidings was number 8 quay siding lines, commonly known as Henderson's. During the 1980s it was used for marshalling trains of imported cars. Further to the left are the Western Jetty arrivals and departure lines. They were opened in 1910 for coal trains to the Western Jetty sidings and passenger trains to Immingham Dock Station. Nearly all the lines in Western Jetty sidings were lifted between 1961 and 1964 for the building of a tank farm formed for petroleum and chemical products. After Immingham passenger station closed in 1969, only the tracks to the tank farm, seen here passing over northwestern entrance level crossing, remained. Returning to the sketch, on the bottom left is a single line known as the Killingham branch. It ran as far as Goxall for passenger trains from Immingham Dock Station travelling to New Holland. However, the passenger service was withdrawn in 1963 and the line was severed just short of Goxall. Freight traffic, however, remained, providing goods for Killingham Station Freight Yard, various petroleum sidings and private works. The single line seen here is the right-hand track passing over Humber Road CCTV level crossing. This part of the single line passes Texaco petroleum sidings connections, which have been out of use since the building of Lindsey Oil Refinery during the 1960s. This view, seen from the top of a road bridge, is looking towards North Killingham Haven. The single line was severed just past the tanks, allowing access to Yorkshire Tyre Company's siding lines. Looking in the other direction, the single line heads towards Marsh Farm level crossing and Immingham Dock. From the level crossing you can see the stop blocks of the reception line, which was used by empty iron ore trains for entering the bulk terminal. This is the level crossing as seen from the roadway looking towards the River Humber. From here we could see the vessels in the river, ships tied up alongside jetties, and the river terminal with its deep water jetty facing onto the River Humber. Cranes can be seen at the terminal unloading a vessel. The terminal was built in 1970 for export coal. However, 3 years later it was altered to handle large vessels of imported high-grade iron ore used for making steel at Scunthorpe steelworks. 4 types of ore was shipped into the site: rubble ore from South Africa and Sweden, pellets from Canada and Norway, fines from Australia, Brazil and Canada, and manganese dust from Brazil. The iron ore, after being lifted by large jetty cranes from huge ships, was then brought ashore via the network of overhead conveyor belts. These belts brought the ore onto a stacking ground west of the railway. From there it was conveyed into an overhead bunker in the Immingham bulk terminal, which contained 5 railway tracks for the loading and storage of iron ore trains. Standing on the bunker line, a train hauled by 2 Class 37 locomotives was being loaded up with iron ore from the overhead bunker. On a gantry attached to the side of the loading bunker is the bulk terminal's central control room. From here, terminal operators manage the movement of trains in and out of the bulk terminal using this switch panel.
About an hour, I should think.
They were also in charge of the loading of trains, and from another switch panel they controlled the amount of iron ore entering the overhead bunkers. After the ore was weighed, it dropped into 3 wagons of the train. By using CCTV monitors, the operators would ensure the load was evenly spread. After the wagons had been loaded, the control operator would speak by telephone to the driver of the locomotive and inform him to move his train forward so that the next 3 wagons could be loaded.
On that bunker just for a test.
Oh yeah, yes. Oh yeah.
Because I want to see if the pipes come. It looks like
A train would take approximately 25 minutes to load. It would then be examined by a carriage and wagon examiner. If there were any uneven, overloaded or crippled wagons, they would be detached and shunted into Rady sidings. Once the OK was given to start the journey, the train would proceed onto the departure line towards the departing signal. We are now in the front cab of a locomotive hauling an empty iron ore train on the up main line approaching Brocklesby Station, heading towards Immingham Dock. After passing through the station and the signal box, the train takes the route towards Ulsby Junction. We are now approaching Ulsby South Junction and the passenger station. This is Ulsby North Junction. The single line to the left is the route towards New Holland. The double lines on the right are the tracks to and from Immingham Dock. As we approach Humber Road Junction, we pass Lindsay Oil Refinery's single line entrance and exit line.
have a good run. You know, why?
Once over Humber Road Junction, the train passes the connections for Mineral Quay and Henderson Quay sidings. At Immingham West Junction, the train is signalled onto the Immingham Bulk Terminal's reception line. This is locomotive 60035, Florence Nightingale, crossing over Humber Road level crossing with an empty iron ore train. It is now passing the terminal's departure line, heading into reception sidings dead end. The train would come to a stand at the stop blocks behind a ground position light signal. Once this was done, the terminal's control operator would set the route and release the signal for the trains to be propelled into the terminal. We are now looking at the same propelling movement from inside the terminal, controlled by locomotive 60037, known as Helvellyn. As it travels on the arrival line, it passes over an internal level crossing towards the bunker line. Each train had 22 100-ton iron ore tipler wagons and were hauled by either a Class 60 or two Class 37 diesel-electric locomotives. 16 trains of iron ore ran each day from Tuesday to Saturday, travelling just the 23 miles to the Santon ore blending plant at Scunthorpe Steelworks. The train we see here has just been loaded and is leaving the terminal via the departure line. It is now passing Immingham West Junction signal box on its way to Scunthorpe. As the ore train departs, an empty coal train is seen waiting to enter Immingham Bulk Terminal. After the miners' strike in 1984, export coal from Immingham ceased, thus reducing the workload at the deep water jetty and the stacking ground. As Scunthorpe's steel business was also affected by the strike, they decided to import coal through the deep water jetty at Immingham. A contract was signed to use Immingham Bulk Terminal and to timetable 7 trains a day using 36 hopper wagon merry-go-round train sets. British Rail gained the contract to maintain the hopper sets at their carriage and wagon maintenance facility known as the New Shops, located on the western side of Immingham Locomotive Shed. The trains were hauled by Class 56 engines maintained at Immingham Diesel Depot. In April 1989, deep water jetty cranes began lifting Canadian coal from ships for the first time. The coal was then conveyed to the stacking ground of Immingham Bulk Terminal via the overhead conveyors. 2 railway lines were provided for loading the coal, which was done by mechanical bucket shovels. Once each wagon was full, the operator would level the top of the load. After each wagon had been loaded, the shovels would stand down. Once the carriage and wagon examiner had cleared the train to depart and the train crew were ready to go, a terminal operator would set the route and operate the controls of the internal level crossing. The train would then be hauled onto the departure line. As it pulled away, a sophisticated water shower facility began operating. Water was sprayed onto the coal of every wagon to dampen down its load. This was done to prevent coal being blown off during transit. The damping down was expected to hold, as the train was only to travel to British Steel's coal handling plant at Scunthorpe, some 20 odd miles away.